Dr. Solomon, I know that you've sort of built a counseling career around this biblical concept of the exchanged life.
Right.
Can you give me sort of the 5-minute version of that concept?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to go back to see how it began, because I came to a place near suicide at the age of 35. And at that time, I was chairman of the deacons on the Baptist church. And that won't make you suicidal, but it helps. And so, anyway, I came to that place, didn't have an answer. I was chairman of the deacons. My church didn't give me any answer, and most churches today do not. So I was reading at night when I couldn't go on one more day, still reading the Bible for some reason, hoping against hope there might be an answer there. I came across Galatians 2:20, I'm crucified with Christ. And suddenly the Holy Spirit took over from head to foot, took away all the anxiety, the depression, all the pain in the back of my head instantaneously. And I stayed up and praised the Lord for 2 or 3 hours, and finally backslid enough to sleep an hour or two. And then got up the next morning and tried to find out what happened to me, but my church couldn't tell me. And so I started reading mainly in Paul's letters, Romans through Ephesians, and to see what it meant to be crucified with Christ. And during that, I read books like Hudson Taylor's Watchman Nee. A lot of people had taught along this line for the last 100 years or so. Probably read 50 books that first year, and began to see what had happened, because the first year or two I was up and down like a department store elevator, trying to learn to walk in it with no help, no discipleship. So after about 2 years, I began to level out, and the Holy Spirit showed me if He'd set me free from so-called mental or emotional disturbances, He could anyone else. He called me to the ministry using Isaiah 58:10-11. If thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and the darkness is a noonday. So I started sharing informally, but I figured if I were going to teach this to anybody, I need some alphabet soup after my name. So I went back. I was in the aerospace industry for 18 years. So I went back, got my master's at the University of Colorado, and an interdisciplinary master's, emphasizing psychology and counseling, and got that in '69, and the Lord gave me a layoff from industry the next month with a wife, 3 teenagers, no savings, and no promise of financial support. Started counseling in my basement, and at that point everybody thought I was crazy. Now it's just 99%, so things are looking up. But from the get-go, God began to change people. We had like PTSD, a pedophile, and all kinds of defeated Christians, but anorexics, agoraphobia, most of the things that people go to psychologists and psychiatrists for. And so that first year, some very tough cases where he was proving with signs following that he was going to do what he said. And so I counseled anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day that first year. In 1970, in the middle of 71, I thought, I'll write this down. So I wrote it down in the Handbook to Happiness, because I had to have either a dissertation or a project for my doctorate. So I turned that into a project in lieu of dissertation on my doctorate degree at University of Northern Colorado, which got in '72. And then we began to add staff in December of '72, and we were in '74. And the next book in '75, the second book, was Ins and Out of Rejection. And then I thought I needed a counseling book, so in '78, the third book was a counseling textbook. And then in '82, I wrote one called The Rejection Syndrome. In '92, I wrote another one called Handbook to Happiness and You. First half is a spiritual clinic for you. Second half is a spiritual clinic for your church. And then since then, recently I wrote one on pastors to pastors. So it's about 37 pastors from around the world, and how they were in the ministry for several to many years before they ever understood the cross and the exchanged life, which is typical of pastors today. Most who understand it have been in the ministry for several to many years. And then I wrote one called Discipling the Desperate. So a lot of those cases, the tough cases that God set free to show, to give the church faith, because the church should be seeing miraculous life changes every week. But that is not the case. In fact, most churches do not do counseling. So a lost person goes to the church, get the answer, they get led to Jesus. A Christian goes to church and gets a referral. I think there's something wrong with that picture, you know.